The room was silent. "And the third option?" Marcus asked. Elena turned to face him directly. "The third option is what we did before. We make ourselves invisible again. Completely. Not just humanity, the entire galaxy." "How?" "We still have one device from the old times. A dimensional damper. It can suppress all advanced energy signatures within a defined space. If we activate it, the entire galaxy will become invisible to the Hollow." "What is the cost?" Velsara asked. She had learned that there was always a cost. Elena's face was grave. "Technology will fail. Across every world, every species. Everything more complex than basic electronics will simply stop working. Ships will fall from the sky. Life support systems will shut down. Billions will die in the immediate aftermath. Billions more in the chaos that follows." The weight of those words pressed down on everyone present. "There must be another way," Velsara whispered. "There is." Elena hesitated. "The damper can be focused, targeted. Instead of suppressing the entire galaxy, we can direct it at the specific location where the beacon activated. We can erase all trace of the signal. Make the Hollow think it was a false alarm. What does that require? Someone must take the damper to the site, activate it manually, and—" Elena's voice broke slightly, "and be present when it fires. The focused version is survivable for the galaxy. It is not survivable for anyone at the activation point." Silence fell over the chamber. Velsara looked at Marcus. His face had gone still. She recognized that stillness now. It was the face of someone who had already made a decision. "No," she said. "Velsara, no." She grabbed his arm. "You are not sacrificing yourself. There has to be another way." "There is no other way." He placed his hand over hers. "This is what we do, what we have always done. We carry the weight so others do not have to. Then let someone else carry it this time." Marcus smiled sadly. "Who? Every keeper has a role, a purpose. The galaxy needs them." He touched her face. "And you are just beginning. You have centuries ahead of you. Centuries to help protect the galaxy. I'm just one human with maybe 50 years left. You are my husband, and I love you. Which is why I cannot let you watch everyone die, because I was too afraid to do what needed to be done." They argued for hours. Velsara used every tool she had: logic, emotion, royal authority. Nothing worked. Marcus was immovable. In the end, she made her own decision. She went to Elena privately. "I will go with him. I have training in Altherian engineering. I may be able to modify the damper, find a way to activate it remotely. That is unlikely to work, but it is possible." Elena studied her for a long moment. "Yes, possible. Not probable." "Then I will try." The journey to the dead system took 4 days. Velsara spent every moment working on the damper, trying to find a way to activate it without being present. Marcus helped where he could, but mostly he just stayed near her. They talked about small things, memories, dreams, the life they might have had. On the 4th day, as they approached the asteroid where the beacon had been found, Velsara made a breakthrough. A modification that had a 30% chance of working. Not great odds, but better than 0. They set the device, started the activation sequence, and ran for their ship. The damper fired just as they reached orbit. A wave of darkness spread outward, erasing every trace of the beacon signal. The Hollow would find nothing here. No light, no life, only empty space. Their ship survived. Barely. Half the systems were fried. They drifted for 6 hours before rescue vessels arrived. When Velsara opened her eyes in the medical bay of the rescue ship, Marcus was beside her. Alive, smiling. "You did it," he whispered. "We did it." 2 months later, they returned to Earth. The crisis had passed. The Hollow had lost interest, turning its attention back to distant realities. The galaxy continued on, never knowing how close it had come to oblivion. On their first evening home, Velsara and Marcus sat together watching the sunset. The sky turned orange, then pink, then deep purple. Stars began to appear. "My people believe strength is measured in power," Velsara said softly. "In conquest. In glory." Marcus did not respond. He just held her hand and waited. "I married into a species that chose to be weak so everyone else could survive. That chose mockery over worship. Obscurity over legacy." She turned to look at him, this ordinary human who carried 12,000 years of sacrifice in his heart. "I have never seen greater strength." Marcus's eyes glistened. He pulled her close. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the hollow waited, patient, eternal, hungry for lights that burned too bright. But Earth remained dim, quiet, forgettable. And its guardians remained vigilant. Now one more stood among them. A princess who had married a human and discovered what her new home truly hid. Not shame, not fear, love, sacrifice, and the courage to be forgotten. Above them, the stars shone on. And somewhere on that small blue planet, children laughed without knowing they were protected. Lovers walked without knowing they were safe. Lives continued without knowing they mattered. That was the gift humanity gave the galaxy. And Velsara would help them give it forever. The stars stretched across the viewport like scattered diamonds on black velvet. Captain Elena Vance stood on the bridge of the Prometheus Rising and watched as the ship dropped out of hyperspace. Her crew worked quietly at their stations. Nobody spoke. They all knew what was coming. The Kovati system appeared before them. It was beautiful. 3 golden suns circled each other in a slow dance. 12 planets orbited those suns. And around those planets, hundreds of ships floated in perfect formation. Elena had seen pictures of alien vessels before. Earth scientists had studied them for years. But pictures did not prepare her for this moment. The ships were magnificent. Some looked like crystals grown into impossible shapes. Others appeared to be alive, with skin that pulsed and glowed. A few seemed to be made of pure light, held together by forces humanity could not understand. And then there was the Prometheus Rising. Elena looked at her own ship through the external cameras. It was gray. It was blocky. It had sharp angles and flat surfaces. Thick armor plates covered every inch of the hull. The engines were large rectangular boxes that stuck out from the back. There was nothing elegant about it. There was nothing beautiful about it. It looked like someone had welded a bunch of metal containers together and attached rockets to them. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Chun walked up beside her. He was a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands. He had been with Elena since the beginning of this mission. "They're already talking about us," he said quietly. Elena nodded. She could hear the alien communications coming through the translator. The Galactic Concord used an open channel system for their trade summits. Everyone could hear everyone else. It was meant to promote trust and openness. Right now, it was promoting something else entirely. "Is that the human vessel?" a musical voice asked. The translator identified it as Velshari. "It looks like something my children would build from scrap metal." "I believe it is," another voice replied. This one was deeper, with clicking sounds underneath it. "Kovathi. They call it the Prometheus Rising. I do not know what a Prometheus is, but it certainly is not rising in my estimation." Laughter echoed across the channel. Not human laughter. It was stranger. Some species whistled. Others made bubbling sounds. A few simply broadcast feelings of amusement directly into the communication stream. Elena's crew shifted uncomfortably at their stations. These were good people. Scientists, engineers, soldiers. They had trained for years for this mission. They left their families behind. They had traveled farther than any human had ever traveled before. And now they were being laughed at. "Captain," said Communications Officer Sarah Park, "Ambassador Yelthin of the Corvathi is requesting to speak with you directly." "Put him through," Elena said. The main view screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not a human face. Ambassador Yelthin was an insectoid being, tall and thin, with 4 arms and 2 large compound eyes. His exoskeleton was polished to a shine. Golden jewelry hung from his neck and wrists. "Greetings, Captain Vance," Yelthin said. His voice clicked and buzzed, but the translator made his words clear. "On behalf of the Galactic Concord, I welcome humanity to the Corvathi Trade Summit. This is a historic moment. You are the first species from your region of space to achieve interstellar travel in over 10,000 years." "Thank you, Ambassador," Elena replied. "We are honored to be here." "Yes, well." Yelthin's compound eyes seemed to look past her, at the bridge behind her. Elena knew what he was seeing. Simple screens. Physical buttons. Wires running along the walls. Nothing fancy. Nothing impressive. "We have prepared a berth for your vessel," Yelthin continued. "It is in the outer ring of the station. I apologize that it is not closer to the main facilities, but your ship's power signature is somewhat unusual. We did not want to risk any interference with the more sensitive vessels." Elena understood what he meant. He was putting them in the back corner, away from the important guests, away from view. "That will be fine," she said calmly. "Excellent. The summit officially begins tomorrow. You and your delegation are welcome to attend all public events. There will be a formal reception this evening in the Grand Hall. I suggest you prepare yourselves." The transmission ended. Marcus let out a long breath. "That could have gone better." "That went exactly as I expected," Elena said. She turned to her crew. "Listen to me. All of you. I know what you're feeling right now. You're angry. You're embarrassed. You want to prove them wrong." Her crew looked at her with tired, frustrated eyes. "Don't," she continued. "Don't try to prove anything. Don't argue. Don't defend. Just watch. Just learn. We are not here to impress them. We are here to understand them. That is our mission. That is our duty." "But Captain," said Engineering Officer James Rodriguez, "they're treating us like children. Like primitives. They think we don't belong here." "Let them think that," Elena said. "What matters is what we know. And we know exactly what this ship is. We know exactly what we can do. Their opinions do not change our capabilities." She walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each crew member in turn. Humanity spent 50 years building this vessel. 50 years of sacrifice. 50 years of work. Every person on Earth contributed something to this mission. Every scientist, every engineer, every factory worker. They gave us everything they had because they believed in us. They believed we could reach the stars. She pointed at the viewport, at the glittering alien ships outside. "Those species out there? They have had interstellar travel for thousands of years. They were born into a galaxy full of wonders. They take it for granted. But we crawled out of the mud. We built rockets from math and metal. We taught ourselves everything the hard way. And now we are here, standing among them. That is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to be proud of." The bridge was silent. Then, slowly, James nodded. Sarah straightened in her chair. Marcus smiled. "Now," Elena said, "take us to our berth." The ugly one in the corner. The Prometheus Rising moved slowly through the gathered fleet. Other ships pulled away as it passed, as if they were afraid of catching some disease. A few broadcast more jokes. More laughter. Elena ignored it all. She guided her ship to the assigned location, a dark corner of the station's outer ring. The berth was small and old. It looked like it had not been used in centuries. Dust floated in the docking lights. Home sweet home, Elena thought. As the ship settled into place and the docking clamps engaged, she took one last look at the alien vessels shining in the distance. They were beautiful. They were powerful. They were everything humanity was not. But beauty and power were not the same thing. And soon the galaxy would learn the difference. Elena turned away from the viewport and walked toward her quarters to prepare for the evening reception. She had a feeling it was going to be a very long night. Behind her, deep within the ship, something hummed quietly in the darkness. Something patient, something waiting. The Prometheus Rising had arrived, and it had brought humanity's answer to the stars. The grand hall of the Corvati station was enormous. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Floating lights drifted through the air like gentle fireflies. The floor was made of something that looked like glass but felt warm under Elena's boots. Hundreds of aliens filled the space. They moved in groups, talking and laughing and making deals. Some floated. Some crawled. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 6 or 8. A few had no legs at all and simply flowed across the floor like living water. Elena stood near a pillar with Marcus and Sarah at her sides. They wore their best uniforms. Clean, pressed, simple gray fabric with Earth's flag on the shoulder. Compared to the flowing robes and glittering jewelry of the other delegates, they looked like servants. Nobody approached them. For the first hour, the human delegation stood alone. Aliens walked past them without a glance. Conversation stopped when they came near and started again when they moved away. It was like being invisible. Or, worse, it was like being something unpleasant that everyone was too polite to mention. "This is uncomfortable," Sarah whispered. "Stay calm," Elena replied. "We knew this would happen." Finally, someone did approach. A group of Velshari glided toward them. The Velshari were tall and slender, with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. They moved with perfect grace. Their leader, a being named High Merchant Tessara, wore robes that seemed to be made of woven starlight. "The humans," Tessara said. Her voice was like music. "We've been curious about you. Your species has caused quite a stir in certain circles." "We are honored by your attention," Elena said carefully. "May I?" Tessara gestured toward the datapad hanging from Elena's belt. It was a standard Earth tablet, used for taking notes and accessing information. Elena hesitated, then handed it over. Tessara examined it with her long, delicate fingers. She turned it over. She tapped the screen. Her colorful skin shifted to pale blue, which the translator indicated meant amusement. "Remarkable," she said. "You still use physical processors. Solid materials arranged to perform calculations. We abandoned such technology 10,000 years ago. It is like meeting someone who still uses stone tools." The other Velshari laughed softly. "It serves our needs," Elena said. "I am sure it does." Tessara handed the datapad back. "Tell me, Captain. Your ship, the ugly one parked in the waste sector. What powers it? We have been trying to scan it, but your hull blocks our sensors." "That is intentional," Elena said. "How mysterious." Tessara's skin shifted to green. "Interest. Is it fusion? Antimatter? Some primitive fission reaction, perhaps?" Elena smiled but said nothing. Tessara waited. When no answer came, her skin shifted again, this time to a darker shade. Annoyance. "Very well. Keep your secrets. I doubt they are worth knowing anyway." The Velshari group drifted away. Over the next 2 hours, similar encounters repeated. Species after species came to examine the humans like they were exhibits in a museum. The Kovathi asked about Earth's climate and seemed shocked that humans could survive in such a narrow temperature range. The Greloks, a race of small furry beings, wanted to know why humans had only 2 eyes. The Mendari, tall reptilian creatures, challenged Marcus to a contest of strength and then laughed when he could only lift half of what they could. But the strangest encounter came from the Thrum collective. The Thrum were not individuals. They were a single consciousness spread across thousands of fungal bodies. At the reception, they were represented by a walking mass of purple and gray tendrils that moved like a slow wave across the floor. The Thrum approached Elena directly. A tendril extended toward her face, stopping just inches away. "Fascinating," the Thrum said. Their voice came from everywhere at once. "You are not networked. Your mind is alone in your skull. You cannot feel the thoughts of your companions. You cannot share memories directly. Each of you is completely isolated." "That is correct," Elena said. "How do you bear it?" The Thrum sounded genuinely curious. "The loneliness must be unbearable. To be trapped in a single body, unable to touch other minds. It is like being buried alive forever." Elena considered the question carefully. "We communicate through words, through expressions, through actions. We learn to understand each other over time. It is not perfect. Sometimes we misunderstand. Sometimes we fail. But it also means that every connection we make is a choice. Every friendship is earned. Every love is built piece by piece." The Thrum was silent for a long moment. "Strange," they finally said. "And sad. We will study your species further. You may provide useful data on cognitive isolation." They flowed away. Sarah shook her head. "They think we're defective." "They think we're different," Marcus corrected. To them, different means lesser. Elena had stopped listening. She was watching the other delegates. She was observing the way they interacted with each other. And she was seeing something that the aliens probably did not realize they were. Showing fear behind all the laughter and the elegance. These species were afraid of each other. The Velshari stayed on one side of the hall, away from the Korvathi. The Greloks avoided the Mendari entirely. The Thrum floated between groups, but never stayed long anywhere. Every species had their own corner, their own allies, their own enemies. They smiled and made deals, but their eyes were always watching, always calculating, and something else. Something in the way they talked about the outer reaches of the galaxy. They mentioned the name in hushed tones. A species that was not present at this summit. A species that the Concord had banned from their gatherings. The Raxel. Elena caught fragments of conversation. The Raxel were predators, conquerors. They had destroyed entire civilizations. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They took what they wanted and left nothing behind. The Galactic Concord had formed specifically to stand against the Raxel threat. But standing against them and defeating them were 2 different things. The Raxel were still out there. Still growing. Still hungry. Every ship at this summit, Elena realized, was built to look impressive. They were designed to show wealth and power. But they were not designed to fight. Not really. They were status symbols. Expensive displays meant to intimidate rivals within the Concord. Nobody here expected actual war. They had forgotten what real danger looked like. As the reception ended, and the human delegation walked back to their ship, Marcus fell into step beside Elena. "You've been quiet," he said. "What are you thinking?" Elena looked up at the stars visible through the station's transparent walls. "I'm thinking that everyone here is playing a game. They're competing for trade routes and influence and prestige. They mock us because we don't know the rules of their game. And they've forgotten that games can end. That something might come along that doesn't care about rules. that only cares about winning. They reached the Prometheus Rising. Its ugly gray hull looked even more out of place now, surrounded by the elegant curves of the station's architecture. "James," Elena said into her communicator. "Status report." "All systems nominal, Captain," James replied from the engine room. "The core is stable. Power levels are at minimum. She's sleeping, but she's ready. Good. Keep her that way." Elena walked onto the bridge and sat in her captain's chair. Through the viewport, she could see the beautiful alien ships glittering in the distance. They had no idea what was coming. Neither did Elena. But unlike them, she was prepared for it. 3 days passed at the summit. 3 days of meetings and negotiations. 3 days of being ignored and mocked. The human delegation attended every event. They listened. They learned. They said very little. On the morning of the 4th day, everything changed. Elena was in her quarters, reviewing notes from the previous day's sessions, when the alarms started. Not the quiet chimes of the Korvathi communication system. These were loud, urgent, screaming. She ran to the bridge. Her crew was already there, staring at the main view screen with pale faces. "Report," Elena ordered. Marcus pointed at the display. 15 contacts just dropped out of hyperspace. They came from the outer rim. No warning. No announcement. Elena looked at the screen. She saw the new ships. They were black. Completely black. No lights, no decorations. Just angular shapes designed for one purpose only. War. "Raxel," Sarah whispered. The open communication channel exploded with noise. Hundreds of voices shouted over each other. Panic spread through the Concorde fleet like fire through dry grass. Then a new voice cut through the chaos. It was deep and cold and completely without emotion. "Attention, Galactic Concorde. This is Warlord Kreth of the Raxel Empire. This summit is now under our control. You will power down your weapons and shields. You will surrender your vessels. You will obey all commands without question. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction." The channel fell silent. Elena watched the other ships on her sensors. The beautiful crystalline vessels of the Velshari were already moving backward, away from the Raxel fleet. The Kovathi defense platforms were powering up, but they seemed small and weak compared to the massive black dreadnoughts. The Thrum bioships were trying to open hyperspace windows, but something was stopping them. "They've deployed gravity snares," James reported from engineering. "Nobody can jump to hyperspace. We're all trapped here." Ambassador Yelthin's face appeared on the view screen. His compound eyes were wide with fear. His voice was shaking. "All vessels, remain calm. We are attempting to negotiate. The Concorde has resources. We can offer payment. We can." Warlord Kreth interrupted him. "You misunderstand, Ambassador. This is not a negotiation. This is a conquest. The Concorde has grown fat and lazy. Your ships are pretty toys. Your weapons are decorations. You have forgotten how to fight. We have not." One of the Raxel dreadnoughts fired. A beam of white-hot energy lanced across space and struck a Velshari cruiser. The elegant crystalline ship shattered like glass. Thousands of beings died in an instant. Screaming filled the communication channel. "That was a demonstration," Kreth said calmly. "The next ship to move without permission will share its fate. Now, power down. All of you." One by one, the Concorde ships began shutting off their systems. Lights dimmed. Engines went quiet. Weapons powered down. The greatest gathering of civilizations in the galaxy surrendered without firing a single shot. Elena watched it happen. Her crew looked at her, waiting for orders. Fear was in their eyes, but also something else: trust. "Captain," Sarah said quietly, "Ambassador Yelthin is trying to contact us specifically. Put him through. Yelthin appeared on screen. He looked broken. Captain Vance, you must flee. Your ship is small. Perhaps the Raxel will not notice you. Perhaps you can escape somehow and warn your homeworld. Tell them what happened here. Tell them to hide. Tell them, Ambassador, Elena interrupted. I need you to do something for me. What? What could possibly matter now? I need you to tell every ship in the Concorde fleet to cut their power completely. Everything. Life support, sensors, everything. And I need them to do it in exactly 5 minutes. Yelthin stared at her. Why? Because in 5 minutes, there is going to be a very bright light. And I do not want anyone to go blind. I do not understand. You don't need to understand. You just need to trust me. Can you do that? The insectoid ambassador was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. We have treated you poorly, Captain. We mocked you. We insulted you. Why would you help us now? Elena smiled. Because that is what humans do. We help, even when it hurts. Even when we are not thanked. It is who we are. She cut the transmission. James, she said into the communicator. Begin the awakening sequence. There was a pause. Then James's voice came back, filled with something that sounded like excitement mixed with fear. Are you sure, Captain? We've never done this at full power before. The simulation said it should work, but I'm sure. Start the sequence. Yes, Captain. Beginning now. Deep within the Prometheus Rising, systems that had been sleeping for the entire journey began to stir. Cables hummed with energy. Coolant pumped through massive pipes. Warning lights flashed in empty corridors. And at the heart of the ship, in a chamber that no crew member had ever entered, something began to spin. Alana felt it through the deck plates. A vibration. Low at first, then building. The lights on the bridge flickered. The air itself seemed to thicken. Power levels rising, James reported. 10%, 20, 30. The Raxel dreadnoughts continued to circle the defeated Concorde fleet. They had not noticed the small gray ship in the corner. Why would they? It was nothing. It was primitive. It was beneath their attention. Warlord Kreth was busy giving orders for the occupation. His soldiers were preparing to board the surrendered vessels. His officers were cataloging the resources they would claim. Victory was complete. 50%, James said. 60. Captain, the hull is starting to glow. They're going to see us. Let them, Elena replied. On the Raxel flagship, a sensor officer noticed something strange. A power reading unlike anything in their databases. It came from a small ship at the edge of the station. A ship they had dismissed as irrelevant. Warlord, the officer said. There is something. Kreth looked at the sensor display. For the first time in his long career of conquest, he felt something he did not recognize. Uncertainty. What is that vessel doing? He demanded. Nobody could answer him. 80%, James said. His voice was tight now. 90. Captain, we are approaching critical levels. The containment field is holding, but barely. If we go to 100, we go to 100. Elena said. She stood up from her chair and walked to the viewport. Outside, the Prometheus Rising's hull was glowing blue-white. Cracks of light spread across the armor plating. The ship looked like it was about to explode, but it was not exploding. It was waking up. Full power, James announced, and the galaxy saw what humanity had built. The universe held its breath. Every sensor in the system locked onto the Prometheus Rising. Every eye, every optical device, every scanning beam pointed at the ugly gray ship that was now burning with inner light. The glow was intense. It was painful to look at. It was like staring into a newborn star. But the light was not the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was what the light was doing to space itself, dot around the Prometheus Rising. Reality was bending. Stars visible through the viewport seemed to stretch and blur. The fabric of the universe warped and twisted like cloth being pulled too tight. A bubble formed around the ship. Inside that bubble, the normal rules of physics did not apply. Warlord Kreth stared at his sensor readings. They made no sense. The power output from that tiny vessel was impossible. It was larger than his entire fleet combined. It was larger than the Karvathi station. It was larger than anything the Raxel had ever encountered. What is that? He demanded. His science officer's hands were shaking. Warlord, I do not know. The reading suggests some kind of singularity. A contained gravitational collapse. But that is impossible. No species has ever successfully harnessed. I do not want to hear what is impossible. Kreth shouted. I want to know what is happening. On the bridge of the Prometheus Rising, Elena stood calmly at the center of the storm. The vibration from the engine had become a constant hum that filled her bones. The lights had steadied into a soft blue glow. Everything was under control. James's voice came through the communicator. Captain, containment is stable. The singularity is fully active. We have complete gravitational manipulation capability. Thank you, James. Elena turned to Sarah. Open a channel to the Raxel flagship. Wide broadcast. I want everyone to hear this. Sarah nodded. Her fingers moved across her console. Channel open. Elena took a deep breath. Then she spoke. Warlord Kreth, this is Captain Elena Vance of the Terran vessel Prometheus Rising. You have 5 minutes to withdraw your fleet from this system. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning. Silence on the channel. Then, laughter. Deep, rumbling laughter from Warlord Kreth. Human, he said. I do not know what trick you are playing. Your ship is glowing. Impressive. Frightening to primitives, perhaps. But I have conquered 100 worlds. I have destroyed fleets that made yours look like dust. You think light and vibration will scare me? No, Elena replied. I think this will. She nodded to Marcus. Marcus pressed a button on his console. The Prometheus Rising moved, not flew, not accelerated. It simply moved from one point in space to another instantly, as if the distance between them did not exist. One moment it was at the edge of the station. The next moment it was directly in front of the Raxel flagship, so close that Kreth could see every plate of its ugly armor through his own viewport. The Raxel fleet reacted with shock. Ships turned. Weapons powered up. Targeting systems locked onto the human vessel. Kreth's voice was no longer laughing. Fire! All ships! Destroy it! Every Raxel dreadnought opened fire at once. Plasma lances. Railgun slugs. Quantum torpedoes. Beam weapons. Missiles. Everything they had. Thousands of projectiles streaked toward the Prometheus Rising. From every direction, none of them hit. Elena watched through the viewport as the weapons curved away from her ship. They bent like water flowing around a rock. Some spiraled off into empty space. Others collided with each other and exploded harmlessly. A few actually reversed direction and flew back toward the ships that had fired them. One plasma lance struck a Raxel destroyer directly in its engine section. The ship exploded. The firing stopped. Let me explain something, Elena said calmly. The Prometheus Rising is not powered by fusion. It is not powered by antimatter. It is not powered by any technology your databases contain. She paused. At the center of my ship is a singularity, a black hole. We captured it from a dying star. We bound it with magnetic fields stronger than anything your science thought possible. We taught it to obey us. The channel was completely silent now. The gravity well from our singularity creates a bubble around our ship. Inside this bubble, we control the shape of space itself. We can compress distance. We can bend light. We can turn your own weapons against you. Nothing you have can touch us. She walked closer to the viewport, staring directly at the Raxel flagship. You asked what we are doing, Warlord. We are standing up. You asked why our hull is so thick. It is because nothing else could contain what is inside. You asked why our ship is ugly. It is because we did not waste time on beauty. We spent every resource on making something that works. Kreth found his voice. You are bluffing. No species could control a singularity. The power required, the precision needed, it is beyond anything. You are correct, Elena said. It is beyond anything you have achieved. But we are not you. We are human. We were dying on a poisoned world. We had no help. No ancient technology. No wise elders to guide us. We only had ourselves and our desperation and our absolute refusal to give up. She smiled. We built the impossible because the possible was not enough to save us. The Prometheus Rising moved again. This time slowly, drifting through the Raxel formation like a shark swimming through a school of fish. The black dreadnoughts pulled away from it. Weapons that had been pointed at it now aimed in every other direction. Crews that had been ready to conquer were now wondering if they would survive. Elena brought her ship to rest in the center of the enemy fleet. You have 4 minutes, she said. Take your ships. Leave this system. Never return. If you do not, I will open the containment field and let you see what a naked singularity looks like up close. Your ships will be crushed to the size of atoms. Your bodies will be stretched into streams of matter thinner than hair. It will happen in less than a second. You will not have time to scream. Kreth was silent. I do not want to do this, Elena continued. We came here in peace. We came to trade and learn and join the community of stars. But we will not be conquered. We will not surrender. We have looked into the darkness between stars and found something terrible and beautiful, and we brought it with us. Now it is yours to fear. She leaned forward. 3 minutes, Warlord. What is your decision? In the darkness of his flagship's bridge, surrounded by officers who would not meet his eyes, Warlord Kreth of the Raxel Empire faced something he had never faced before. Defeat. Complete. Absolute. Undeniable. He had come here expecting easy victory. He had found something else entirely. Something that made his great fleet look like toys. Something that bent the universe itself to its will. He looked at the glowing human ship floating impossibly among his dreadnoughts, and he gave the only order he could give. All ships, he said quietly. Withdraw.